Okay, we've taken a look at the income statement. Now let's take a look at the balance sheet. Okay. The balance sheet. Now, whereas the income statement tells us how profitable a business is over a given period, the balance sheet tells us what a business has, what resources that business has, and who owns it. So what a business has and who owns it at a given point in time. So the balance sheet is a little bit like a snapshot. You know, the balance sheet is a snapshot. You know, whereas the other is over a given period of time, the balance sheet is at a given point in time. Now, the balance sheet is called a balance sheet because um, because because on a balance sheet, the assets of a business and the sum of the business's liabilities and equities balance. So you've seen this scale before. So here we have a scale. Okay. And that scale balances as well. On this side we have the assets. And on this side we have the sum of that business's liabilities and equity. Okay? And those are always in balance on a balance sheet. And so another word for liabilities is debts. So we could also say just as easily debt plus equity. Okay? So those two things are always in balance on a balance sheet. And that brings us to the balance sheet equation, which we've just indicated, but I'll repeat it here so that you can make sure you write it down. So the balance sheet is assets is equal to debt plus equity. Or it can also be assets is equal to liabilities, means the same thing, plus equity. Now in just a moment we're going to look at an example for Jim's Courier Service. But please remember, we said a balance sheet tells us what a business has and who owns it. Another way to say what that business has is the business's assets. Okay, what a business has is equal to its assets. Okay, and so just keep that in mind as we look at this example for Jim's Courier Service. Okay, so we're going to actually do a balance sheet. This is a balance sheet. Two E's. Balance sheet for Jim's. Let me just a moment. Okay, Jim's Courier Service. Okay, Jim's Courier Service. And what Jim's Courier Service does is they provide the quick delivery of packages all around the city. And it's this balance sheet, remember, it's for a point in time. It's not a period, it's a point in time. So we can say it's for March 31st, 2011. Okay, that is the day that this balance sheet is representing, and because again it's a snapshot of what the business has and who owns it. Now that may not be intuitive to you to separate those two out, but on a balance sheet we need to separate, we need to make a difference between what the business has and who actually owns those things, and I think that'll be clear to you in just a minute. Now what does Jim have in this business? Let me pick a different color here. What does Jim have in this business? Okay, what are his assets? Just a moment. What are Jim's assets? Well, he has some cash. He has some liquid in this business. Cash. Let's say he has $750. Okay, $750 in cash. He also has some supplies. You know, packaging materials, different things like that, and so the supplies that Jim has are total $50. Now, those things are more liquid, so we list those first on the asset under assets, and that's just the way it's done on balance sheet. Now, he has some other things as well. He has some motorbikes because he's a courier service. These guys zoom around on bikes, and so we can say that Jim has 3 motorbikes, and the total value of those motorbikes is $1,800. Now he has some cell phones. He has a secretary that takes orders and does things like that, and so for that secretary he has a phone. He has a phone, and his 3 delivery guys also have phones. So he has some phones. Let's just say he has 5 phones. Okay, 5 phones. And the total value of those phones is $400. Now, he also has a couple of computers. He has a computer that he uses and a computer that's used in the office for order taking and things like that. And those two computers are worth $1,200. Okay, so what are the total assets for Jim's courier service? Let's take a moment and do the math. That's right, $4,200. Let me just correct that. $4,200 are the assets. So that's what the business has, but that's not all of that. Doesn't necessarily belong to Jim. Now, let me give you an example of what I mean. Jim has some debt. Let me go over here and pick another color. Jim has some debt, or as we said, these are also called liabilities. Liabilities. And for example, he has a line of credit at a local gas station where the motorbikes fuel up and where they get fuel for their deliveries, and he pays that once a month, and that gas credit, let's call it that gas credit, is $150. So you remember over here we said that he has assets. He has $750 in cash. Well, every month he needs to pay his gas credit, and at this point in time, on March 31st, he owes $150 to the gas station. So again, on this side of the balance sheet, we see what Jim has, but on this side of the balance sheet, we see who owns it. We see that there's a claim against his cash and against his assets of $150. So there's a debt. And he also got a loan from his Aunt Joan when he started that business. He's been paying that loan off, but there's a loan. So we'll call that loan a note of credit that he owes to Aunt Joan. Aunt Joan, and he owes her $2,400. He's paid it down. It was bigger than that when he started, but he's paid it down a little bit. But that's what's remaining. As of March 31st, he still owes $2,400 on that loan. So we need a total for the liabilities. Total liabilities. What is it? Yeah, that's right. It's $2,550 that he owes. Okay, so then we come down here. Let me pick a different color. And we consider the equity. Let's put a little line here so that we can separate that. Equity. Now, how much equity does Jim have in Jim's courier service? Well, that's the remainder. So the owner's equity now you'll remember what's our equation? That's right. Assets is equal to the sum of liabilities plus equity. Okay, so we're going to do the math here. Another way that you could express that equation is assets minus liabilities equals equity. So we're going to do that math. We're going to take our assets over here of $4,200. We're going to subtract from that our total liabilities of $2,550, and that's going to give us the total owner's equity, which is $1,650. That is the owner's equity. And if we take the sum of the liabilities and owner's equity, then it does indeed balance $4,200 on this side and $4,200 on this side. So our balance sheet is in balance, and it shows us exactly what a balance sheet is supposed to show us. What the business has, the assets over on this side, but who actually owns those? What proportion of those things belong outright to the owner, and what proportion of those things have a claim against them with debt?